Sheikh Omar Al Rashid and Meera Kapoor's love story began with gold, glamour, and a $5 million wedding, but it ended in blood, betrayal, and a DNA test that exposed a deadly secret. The city of Dubai shimmered under golden lights as helicopters hovered above the desert, capturing the grandest wedding the world had seen in years. Sheikh Omar Al Rashid, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the UAE, was finally getting married. His bride, Meera Kapoor, an elegant Indian model, became an overnight sensation. The entire event was a masterpiece of luxury, costing over $5 million. The ceremony took place at a private desert resort built exclusively for the wedding. Imported roses covered every corner, gold chandeliers hung from crystal tents, and fireworks illuminated the endless night sky. Royal guests, Bollywood celebrities, and global business tycoons filled the venue, applauding what many called the wedding of the century. Cameras flashed as the couple smiled and exchanged vows beneath a custom-made diamond arch. Every detail, from the golden carriage that carried Meera to the altar to the $1 million gown she wore, was designed to dazzle. The Sheikh's reputation for taste and power reached new heights that night. Yet, behind the glamour and perfection, a sense of unease lingered. Some guests whispered about how quickly the marriage had been arranged. Others found it strange that Omar had kept his relationship with Meera secret until just weeks before the announcement. Still, no one dared question him. To the world, it was a dream come true, a fairy tale between East and West. As the music played and the couple danced under the stars, no one imagined that this night, filled with celebration and opulence, would soon become a dark memory, the beginning of a chain of events that would expose deception, betrayal, and bloodshed behind the Sheikh's golden empire. Before the world knew her as the glamorous bride of Sheikh Omar Al Rashid, Meera Kapoor lived a completely different life in Mumbai. She was known in modeling circles as ambitious, beautiful, and mysterious. Her rise in the fashion industry had been fast but filled with controversy. Meera often changed agencies, broke contracts without explanation, and disappeared for months only to return with new sponsors and expensive clothes no one could trace the source of. People around her whispered about a powerful man funding her lifestyle, but no one had proof. A few years earlier, Meera had been involved with a wealthy businessman named Arav Mehta, who suddenly went missing after a financial scandal. His case made headlines for weeks, but Meera denied knowing anything. When the investigation faded, she quietly left India, reinventing herself with a new story, claiming to be an orphan who built her career through hard work and luck. In Dubai, she met Sheikh Omar at a private art exhibition, introduced by a mutual acquaintance who admired her charm and intelligence. Omar was captivated instantly by her elegance and humility. For Meera, it was an opportunity beyond imagination, a chance to erase her past forever. She played her role perfectly, appearing modest, respectful, and devoted. Within months, the Sheikh proposed. The media adored her transformation, calling her the Cinderella of Dubai. But behind the admiration, some who had known her before recognized her photos and began to question her real identity. Meera ignored the attention, determined to protect her secret. What no one knew was that her entire life was built on layers of lies, and marrying Sheikh Omar was not just a dream come true. It was part of a dangerous plan. Fahad al-Mansour had been Sheikh Omar's personal assistant and confidant for more than a decade. He knew the Sheikh's routines, his moods, and the way he trusted people too easily when emotions were involved. When Meera entered Omar's life, Fahad noticed an immediate shift. The Sheikh, once careful and private, became impulsive and secretive. He canceled important meetings, ignored business partners, and began making financial decisions that seemed uncharacteristically rash. Fahad respected Omar deeply, but something about Meera troubled him from the beginning. She carried herself with charm, yet her eyes often revealed calculation. She told stories about her family in India that changed slightly each time she spoke, and when asked simple questions about her past, she would deflect with a smile. Determined to protect the Sheikh, Fahad began to dig quietly. He contacted a friend in India who specialized in private investigations, asking him to trace Meera Kapoor's background. Weeks later, disturbing information came back. Meera's passport had been issued recently under a new name. Her previous identity had been linked to an unsolved disappearance case involving a businessman named Arav Mehta. There were also bank records showing large, unexplained deposits into her account right before she moved to Dubai. Fahad tried to warn Omar, but the sheikh dismissed it as jealousy and paranoia. Meera had already earned his trust, and questioning her loyalty only angered him. Still, Fahad could not ignore his instincts. He began secretly recording details, gathering documents, and watching her every move. Deep down, he feared that the woman his employer loved might not only be hiding her past, but planning something far worse for his future. Months after their magnificent wedding, the palace was filled with joy when Meera announced she was expecting a child. Sheikh Omar, overjoyed, treated her like royalty. He gifted her luxury cars, rare jewels, and a private island villa to ensure she had every comfort. Newspapers covered every detail of her pregnancy, portraying her as the glowing queen of Dubai's newest royal couple. For a while, the palace radiated happiness. But as time passed, Fahad noticed Omar growing uneasy. The sheikh had begun to question small things. Meera's sudden secretive phone calls, her nervousness when asked about her past, and her strange connection to a man whose number kept appearing on her private line. When the baby was born, everyone celebrated the arrival of a healthy boy. Yet whispers spread among the household staff that the child bore little resemblance to Omar. Curiosity turned into suspicion, and one night, while Omar was away, Fahad ordered a DNA test in secret. He sent samples from both father and child to a private lab in Abu Dhabi. Days later, the results arrived, and what they revealed changed everything. The baby was not Sheikh Omar's biological son. Even more shocking, Meera's DNA matched a criminal database in India linked to the disappearance of businessman Arav Mehta. The sheikh's trusted assistant stared at the report in disbelief, realizing the woman they celebrated as a perfect bride was living under a false identity. When Omar discovered the truth, his world collapsed. The woman he loved had deceived him completely. The grand palace that once symbolized love now became a house of betrayal, and the truth hidden behind Meera's beauty was darker than anyone could have imagined. When Sheikh Omar confronted Meera with the DNA results, the palace's silence was suffocating. The man who had built an empire with power and precision now stood shattered by the cruelest betrayal. He dismissed the staff for the night and locked himself inside his private study with her. No one knew what happened behind those doors, but faint sounds of arguing were heard through the marble halls. The next morning, the security cameras in the mansion were found mysteriously disabled, and Meera was seen walking out alone, dressed elegantly, her face calm and composed. When questioned by the guards, she said the sheikh had taken an unscheduled flight to London for urgent business. Her voice was steady, her demeanor perfect, but something in her eyes made the staff uneasy. Hours passed, then days, yet no one heard from Sheikh Omar. His private jet had not left Dubai, and his phone remained switched off. His closest friends grew anxious as meetings were canceled and his businesses went silent. Fahad, unable to rest, went through the security footage, only to discover that the recordings from the previous night had been wiped clean. He noticed Meera had ordered all guards to stay away from the East Wing that evening, the same area where Omar's study was located. Within the palace walls, rumors began spreading that something terrible had happened. Still, Meera continued her daily routines, appearing in public dressed in mourning colors, claiming she was praying for her husband's safe return. The media accepted her story, portraying her as a heartbroken wife. But those who worked closest to the sheikh felt an unspoken truth, that his disappearance was no accident, and Meera knew far more than she would ever admit. 2 weeks after Sheikh Omar's mysterious disappearance, Dubai's calm luxury turned into quiet panic. His business partners demanded answers, the royal family grew restless, and the media began speculating about his sudden absence. Meera maintained her composure, telling interviewers that her husband was away for medical treatment and needed privacy. She appeared in black designer abayas, her eyes covered with dark glasses, projecting the perfect image of a grieving wife. Yet behind closed doors, she continued to host private parties at the villa and secretly transferred large sums of money from Omar's accounts to offshore banks. Everything changed when a fisherman discovered a luxury watch floating near Dubai Marina. It was instantly recognizable, engraved with the Sheikh's initials and family crest. Police divers were deployed, and after hours of searching, they found blood-stained fabric tangled in the rocks underwater. Forensic tests confirmed it belonged to Sheikh Omar's ceremonial robe, the same one he had worn the night he vanished. News of the discovery spread across Dubai, shaking the entire nation. Detectives quietly launched a criminal investigation. They began questioning palace staff, drivers, and security guards. Some admitted they had seen Meera acting strangely, instructing them to avoid certain areas of the palace and dismissing staff early on the night of the disappearance. When police searched her villa, they found inconsistencies in her statements and signs of freshly cleaned marble floors in Omar's study. Still, Meera maintained her innocence, insisting her husband was alive. While the city whispered of betrayal and murder, Meera continued living lavishly, her social media filled with cryptic posts about rebirth and freedom. To the public, she was still the Sheikh's grieving widow. But to investigators, she had become their prime suspect. As investigators dug deeper into Meera's past, they uncovered a shocking trail that reached far beyond Dubai. Financial records revealed repeated international wire transfers from Sheikh Omar's private accounts to an offshore company registered in Thailand. The beneficiary was listed under a false name, but when traced, it belonged to none other than Arif Mehta, the same businessman from Mumbai who was presumed dead years earlier. The revelation turned the investigation upside down. Arif was alive, hiding under a new identity, and Meera had been secretly communicating with him even after marrying Sheikh Omar. Dubai authorities coordinated with Interpol to gather more evidence. They retrieved phone records, emails, and travel documents showing that Meera had visited Thailand months before the wedding, staying in a villa rented under Arif's name. The timeline revealed a disturbing plan. Meera and Arif had orchestrated the entire marriage to gain access to Omar's wealth, planning to siphon millions into hidden accounts before disappearing together. When confronted with the evidence, Meera denied everything, claiming the transfers were part of her husband's business dealings. But investigators weren't convinced. They found encrypted messages on her personal laptop containing phrases like, "The crown is almost ours," and "After the birth, we disappear." The DNA test that had exposed her affair had ruined their carefully crafted scheme, pushing them to desperation. As the investigation progressed, new witnesses emerged, including a palace maid who confessed to seeing Meera receive a late-night visitor days before Omar vanished. The visitor, she said, matched Arif's description. The truth was finally unraveling. Sheikh Omar's disappearance was not a mystery of fate, but a calculated crime driven by greed, deception, and revenge. The investigation gained momentum as Dubai police pieced together the final hours before Sheikh Omar's disappearance. Surveillance cameras from nearby streets revealed Meera's car leaving the palace around midnight on the night he vanished. A second vehicle, registered under a fake name, followed closely behind, later identified as belonging to Arif Mehta, who had secretly entered Dubai days earlier using a forged passport. Detectives now had the missing piece connecting Meera directly to the man she claimed was dead. Authorities moved swiftly. Meera was summoned for questioning at the Central Police Headquarters. She arrived composed, dressed elegantly, her face untouched by fear. When confronted with photos of Arif's movements and the financial records, her confident mask began to crack. Investigators searched her luxury car and discovered microscopic traces of blood beneath the seat cover and carpet lining. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Sheikh Omar. That discovery transformed the case from a missing person inquiry into a murder investigation. Interpol teams located Arif in Thailand, living under the alias Rohit Das. A coordinated raid led to his arrest. During interrogation, Arif broke down, revealing the entire plot. He confessed that Meera had lured Sheikh Omar into marriage as part of their plan to seize his fortune. When the DNA test exposed them, they panicked. Meera poisoned Omar's drink during their confrontation, and together they disposed of his body in the desert before staging his disappearance. The confession sent shockwaves through Dubai. Meera was arrested immediately, charged with murder, fraud, and conspiracy. Her empire of lies crumbled in a single night. The woman once celebrated as the Cinderella of Dubai now stood exposed as the mastermind behind one of the city's most shocking crimes. For days, police and forensic teams scoured the vast desert outside Dubai, following the directions Arif had provided during his confession. It was an isolated stretch of sand miles away from the city, where the wind erased footprints within minutes. After 3 days of searching, officers discovered a shallow grave covered with dry palm branches. Inside, wrapped in silk embroidered with gold thread, were human remains. The jewelry and watch confirmed what everyone feared. The body belonged to Sheikh Omar Al Rashid. DNA tests officially verified his identity, ending weeks of speculation and hope that he might still be alive. The discovery spread like wildfire across the world. News outlets broadcast the story nonstop, turning what had begun as a royal love story into an international scandal. As the investigation report became public, Dubai's citizens were stunned by the brutality and betrayal behind the sheikh's death. Meera, once admired for her beauty and grace, was now vilified as a cold-blooded manipulator. Her photographs were removed from magazines, and companies that had endorsed her image publicly cut ties. During her trial, she showed little emotion, appearing distant and unremorseful even as prosecutors detailed how she and Arif planned the murder. Arif's testimony confirmed every detail: the forged identity, the secret accounts, and the fatal poisoning. He said Meera had convinced him that killing Omar was their only escape once the DNA test exposed them. The court listened in silence as the full extent of the betrayal unfolded. The discovery of the sheikh's body not only closed the mystery, but also exposed the greed, deceit, and darkness that had been hidden behind the glittering walls of wealth and power. Dubai had lost one of its most respected men, and the fairy tale had ended in tragedy. The trial became one of the most closely followed cases in Dubai's history, drawing reporters, diplomats, and celebrities from around the world. Every detail of the investigation was broadcast: the DNA test, the secret affair, the hidden money trail, and the murder in the desert. The public watched in disbelief as Meera, once celebrated as the radiant bride of a royal, stood behind glass in a courtroom, expressionless and calm. Her transformation from admired model to convicted murderer fascinated and horrified everyone. The evidence was overwhelming: the DNA results, Arif's confession, the financial records, and the discovery of Sheikh Omar's body. The jury took only a few hours to reach their decision. Meera was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Arif received the same sentence, but his life ended mysteriously just months after the verdict, found dead in his cell under unexplained circumstances. The Al Rashid family retreated from public life, mourning privately and dissolving the empire that Sheikh Omar had built. His younger brother took over the family's business and vowed never to let greed or deceit enter their name again. The palace where Omar and Meera once lived was sold and later abandoned after workers claimed to hear strange sounds echoing through the halls at night. Locals began calling it the Palace of Shadows, believing it to be cursed by the bloodshed that had taken place there. Years later, people still talk about Sheikh Omar's tragic love story, a tale that began with beauty, luxury, and promise, but ended with betrayal and death. It serves as a haunting reminder that behind the most perfect smiles can hide the darkest lies, and even a $5 million wedding cannot buy true love or loyalty.